This is the Diverse Leaders Conversation Podcast, the only podcast for diverse leaders and founders, with your hosts, Dawn Morton-Young and Kat Wildman. Starting up and rising up against the odds.
Hi, Pinky. In fact, you introduce yourself. Let us know what your name is or what you do, and whereabouts you're based.
Hi, Dawn. Lovely to be here. I'm so excited to.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, I really enjoy this kind of stuff because I think it's really important to talk about all this kind of stuff. So my name is Pinky Ghialdi. I'm based in Edinburgh, and I've got two businesses. My core business is my inclusive leadership coaching, where I help not only individuals, but also organizations understand more about what it's like to have an inclusive culture. And that all began way back 10 years ago. And I started coaching predominantly women who struggle with imposter syndrome and the lack of confidence to advance or progress their careers or their businesses, and realized that then there's a lack of community around this, I suppose, struggle, challenge, niche, whatever you want to call it, and started netwomen.co. And that's when it was a month before the pandemic in 2020. And I started Net Women, and we changed very quickly online. But actually, it was that crisis that gave us the opportunity to do what we're doing with Net Women right now. It globalized us very quickly. And what we do now is we help organizations elevate and retain their female talent. And we all know that that basically means that the organization will become more profitable, and it will also help bridge the gender and ethnicity gap.
Okay, so obviously, we met because we are kind of in similar areas of work, and as you said about this stuff is really important. And I think, especially with what you do with the focus on women, and also that thing that you said earlier on about imposter syndrome, because that is a massive thing. And I think that, I don't know whether you'd agree, but even for me, I still have that imposter syndrome thing. When things are not going to plan, you start to question yourself, like, is it because I'm not good at what I do, or am I not supposed to be doing this, or should I just go and get a job? Yeah. and I guess that's a totally separate conversation about that, and maybe that's something that we can discuss at a later date in the podcast and for one of our future episodes, because I'm sure everybody would like to hear more about how they can kind of beat imposter syndrome and address those feelings that they get. But today is more about getting to know you and getting to know some of your experiences. So could you tell me, how do you think that your journey has been different from other people who don't have your diverse or your protected characteristics?
I think that's a big question. Loaded. I probably started my journey, let's say when I was a kid. I was at school, and it was a predominantly white school, all white girls, right? So from the age of 7, let's say, and I've been conditioned, if you like, to feel like I don't belong, not fit in. And it's different now, because I remember when I was leaving that school, probably when I was turning 16, 17, I think that's when I started seeing more people like me joining the school. But at the time, when you're going through that much of a differential, and in your mind constantly thinking about, do I fit in here? Do I belong? Do I deserve to be here? Why am I the only one that looks like me here? And it's different. And I think what you're saying, what you're asking is, I mean, I think this has happened throughout my life. So then I went to university, and that was like, wow, there's people like me here. It's a cultural melting pot. This is amazing. And, you know, there's people that are from different backgrounds, different countries, different sexual orientation. And I was just like, this is brilliant. I love this. Then I went to work. So I trained to be an optometrist.
Okay.
So that's my background. And I remember when I first started, when I first started, I wanted to be self-employed. That was it. I was like, I am not signing myself up to an organization. I refuse to be put into a box. I refuse to have that feeling of being told what to do, when to go.
Another number.
Exactly. Told when to go on holiday, when not to do certain things. And I just thought, right, I'm just starting my own business. So that was actually me in effect at the age of 21.
Okay.
Business.
Wow.
So the entrepreneurial spirit has always been in me from the very beginning. But what I did notice was that firstly, when I started going to these, you have to go to different practices to work as an optometrist if you work for yourself, because either you're covering for somebody or you're doing a contract for somebody.
Okay. So you're kind of a consultant then, yeah.
Exactly. And so I'd walk in and I would be firstly the youngest person, a woman of color, and the receptionist would be like 3 times older than me, and usually a woman. And she'd just look at me and go, yes. And I just go, I'm here to cover the clinic, whatever. My name's Pinky. I'd introduce myself. Oh, right. That feeling of you don't fit in, you don't belong. What the hell are you doing here? Who are you to be the person that runs this clinic? Because effectively, as an optometrist, you're at the top of your game. You don't answer to anybody. The manager doesn't really know anything about the clinical side of things. You're the one that runs the clinic, and you're the one that basically makes the practice money, because you're selling, you're giving advice as well clinically. And I remember that very well, daily.
It's that kind of bias, isn't it? So seeing you and what you appeared in front of her to be, you couldn't be the person that's coming in. You must be either a client or, a patient or something. Yeah.
And that was and I just, in my head, I sometimes think, is that how you treat everybody that walks through the door? Is that how everyone gets treated, even if you are a customer or a client? Because if that was me, I would be like, well, I'm not coming back here. And so then after that, I decided that, okay, I'm going to try what it feels like to work for an organization. So I did that. Oh my goodness, what an experience. And for 6 months, I was really hating what I did. That was a point where I decided that this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. Knowing the fact that I was much better at the actual sitting with my patients and for them to tell me about their life stories or what they've been up to. And they would then open up and I would just sit there and I would just listen proactively. I guess that's my gift. That's how I give back. And that space that I created for people really made me think, I need to do something else. And I need to think about how I can hone in on this power that I have. That aside, the guy that I was working with at the time, I found out was getting paid more than me.
God.
And I remember that moment where I just thought, and I spoke to the manager about this. I spoke to head office and they were all like, well, he's worked there for a year more than you and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, wow, that is why am I competing with a white man when I can go out and I can earn what I should be getting paid when I have my own consultancy and my own business? And that's when I handed in my notice, a 3-month notice. Oh my goodness, what a nightmare. That was like, then it's extended to 9 months. And I was thinking, when is this going to end? Just knowing, even it doesn't matter how much more he was getting than me, he was still getting more, right? It's the principle of the matter. And I suppose what I do now really ties in with that, because it's important that we all understand that, yes, there is that gender pay gap.
Yeah.
There's also a huge ethnicity pay gap.
Yeah. And it's not spoken about.
There's not.
Yeah. And now they're trying to start to address those things or talk about it. But again, because the government are making it voluntary for people to have to report. And it's the same journey that we had with the gender pay gap. It was voluntary and then it became compulsory, but only now for certain sizes of organizations. And then, but so what about the person that works in the corner shop where someone's getting paid much more than them? They haven't got any obligation to report that. And it's it's all of these perimeters that they put into things to basically keep the disparity going, right? Yeah. So yeah, I think that part is, that's really interesting actually, that happened to you, and especially from the viewpoint that you came from, to be able to stand up for yourself and be like, I don't care if he gets paid £1 more than me, he's getting paid more than I am, and we're doing the same job.
Yeah.
Whilst we also understand there is a thing about, you're there for a long period of time, you're meant to get a pay rise, blah, blah, blah. We understand that. But then from the same token, if somebody's coming in new, there shouldn't be a gap, to be noticeable if we're both putting in the same effort and the same action into our roles. Exactly. So can I ask, is your day-to-day work experience now, is it affected because of your diversity, do you think? And that could be in a positive or a negative way.
I don't know, because I work on my own and I work from home. So I don't know if that is affecting the way that I look, or the way who I am as a person is affecting business. Yeah. I know that diverse businesses don't get funded as much as white businesses, white men, obviously. I know that the opportunities for me to speak to people in the corporate world are limited because I don't have those connections. But the people that I have connected with have been very responsive. Most of them have been, great. They've listened. But the action isn't there. The talk is there. I think what I'm providing is a necessary thing. It's important to all sectors, all businesses. However, is it important enough for them on their priority list to do something about it? And the other thing is, I don't actually think about the fact that constantly thinking, oh, I'm a woman of color. No, I think about, I do the best that I can possibly do. You take me as I am as a person, and I am who I am, and I'm not going to hide that.
Yeah,
that is exactly how I operate, and that's exactly what I teach my son as well. You might look different to other people, they look different to you, but at the end of the day, you bring your best self every single day. You do what you do, and some people will love you, some people won't, and that's just the way of the world.
Yeah.
If we keep on kind of telling ourselves, oh, we're hard done by, and we're different, and all that kind of stuff, that's going to consistently hold you back. Those limiting beliefs will keep on pulling you down, and that's like a negative cycle, and it's really hard to get out of that. But if you think about it on the flip side and think, well, actually, there are people out there that support you, that are your allies, that actually want to buy from you, that want to help you, you know, they're there. It's just finding those people, I think.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it's kind of going back a little bit to my last point where I talked about, you know, where we spoke about the gender pay gap and the government's role in, I guess, forcing businesses to consider those types of things. And it's a bit about like what you're saying. So people are happy to have the conversation, but when it comes to putting their money in the pocket to invest in having a more inclusive organization or making sure that the diverse people are supported to be able to go through, you know, up the career ladder and all of those kinds of things, that's where the hesitancy lies until there's something mandated. And I think that there's a big thing about that, because if you have to wait for somebody to force you to do something, then where is your heart in all of that? And as well, to your point of not thinking of yourself, I think what you were trying to say is thinking of yourself as a victim, because I think that's also, there's being aware that the world perhaps is not the most friendliest place to people who are outside of the majority demographic. But there's also knowing that your own power that you have to be able to create a life that you want to have. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to get setbacks or people looking at you in a certain way, but it's that knowledge of self and what you bring. And as you say, bring in your best self. And I've found personally that, so, you know, confession is I grew up in a home with a parent who was very much that kind of, oh, you know, they never want us to excel. They're always going, you know, that type of thing was what was told to me. And then when I started to get out there in the world and I saw, well, maybe underneath it's true, they probably don't like me, but they're offering opportunities to people like me because of the conversations that's going on. So why would I sit and say, oh yeah, but they really don't like me, so I won't take the opportunity? Take the opportunity. Just another quick question. Did you find that people were surprised by your name? I've never met anybody called Pinky, although when I look for you on LinkedIn, there are loads of people called Pinky. But it's just not a name I would ever thought to look for. So do you get people kind of, you know, maybe not questioning your name, but being a bit taken aback or?
Yeah, I think I saw a post about this on LinkedIn the other day about names and how people have to change their names at work because sometimes they firstly can't be bothered to pronounce them correctly, which happened to my mum, by the way, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And the other one is they just go, what the hell kind of name's that?
Do they say that to your face?
yeah, like look at me like, what is that really your name? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
The thing is, I've been faced with that all again throughout my life. So obviously as a child you get bullied, got bullied because my name was Pinky, and it is actually a nickname. When I was born, my parents couldn't decide what to call me. So my granddad stepped in and just said, look, her name's Pinky. We called her that from the beginning. Why don't we just register as Pinky? And so my parents in the end just said, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And that's how it started.
Yeah.
And at the age of probably about 14, I just wanted to change my name. I was done with the bullying. I was done with, you know, name calling and all of that kind of stuff that was happening. And my mum said to me, well, what are you going to change it to? Because nothing's going to be as great as Pinky, is it? And I went, you know what, you're right.
Right.
I'm going to own it.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think that we all, even my children went through that. I've named my children, they all have names that mean something. So one's Arabic, one's Egyptian, one's Hebrew. And all of them went through the stage of, I want to change my name. I want to be called Sarah. Why would you? And you know, I was, my name at birth, my first name was Constance, so it was like I hated that name, you know, and people would take the mickey out of it, and yes, everybody then called me Connie, and even my friends now, you know, they call me Connie, my mum calls me Connie and all the rest of it. But I remember there's a point, isn't there, where you kind of just realize to yourself, actually, it's me. My parents named me this for a reason. And it's, you know, like Dawn, my mum really wanted to call me Dawn as my first name, and my dad didn't let her. So as I got older, I just, you know, swapped them over, and now I'm Dawn. But either way, it's something that has been handed down to me, and that I would, but I just wanted to ask you that question because I thought, I'm sure there are people that kind of, yeah, wonder whether you're pulling their leg or whether, you know, that's actually your name or, you know, what it is. So what support have you had, I guess, from organizations growing up or in your business life now, if any, for your you know, where have you, has there been any kind of, you know, I've spoken to people and there's been like one particular teacher at school or one particular boss that really kind of tried to understand them and support them in terms of their experiences. Is there any organizations or people that have supported you along your journey?
Wow, it's a good question. Various people, I think. I've been really lucky, I think, with the people that I've surrounded myself with. And I think it started off with, school was a terrible experience, but when I went into college, there was this one teacher, my chemistry teacher, Dr. Brown. She was like, she got me, you know? You know, when you meet somebody and you go, oh my goodness, she actually gets me, and I can talk to her like a normal human being. Because normally when I was at school, I was scared of my teachers, some of them. And some of them were just like really scary. And I was quite timid and I was quite shy when I was younger. But since then, you know, I've done lots of work on myself, coached, had loads of coaches, and doing things like this would have been scary. I would have said no back in the day. But now I'm in my 40s now. So, you know, I kind of got over myself.
Yeah.
I don't really care. And I had a maths teacher actually, and he was brilliant too. Just genuine people who actually gave and I'm not going to say in case.
Yeah.
And, you know, just actually thinking back now, and this is really making me think, Dawn, so thanks for this. What else? I would say that, you know, I've had great opportunities with what I did as an optometrist. There were people there that were willing to put me forward. I was recommended a lot. Even now I still get phone calls saying, can you come and work for us? So I really created a name for myself in that field. And then going into this new chapter of my life, the coaching business, so many people are happy to refer me. I think that's really important. I think if you get word of mouth recommendation, you know you're doing something right.
Yeah.
You know?
And there is a community, isn't there, with this, in this kind of, it's almost like a surgence of the diversity space that came during lockdown, isn't it? It's almost like we were all there, because I've worked in diversity for years, but in terms of really wanting to, I worked within organizations, but this kind of change for me of working outside of an organization where I feel I can actually drive things forward because I don't have to get it approved by somebody. You know, the work that I do what I think is needed. Does that make sense? And I think we have like a great community now of people. You know, we've got Shireen Daniels that does her whole anti-racism thing. You know, we've got a lot of kind of people that are becoming more prominent in the space, and we've got more of a feeling of support. I don't know whether that's something that you feel as well now.
I think if we're all band together and we all build this community, and that's what Net Women is. It's really about understanding each other, learning from each other. And every day for me is a learning day. I learn something new every single day with the community, and constantly asking questions to find out more about that person. It's so important. Why are we so afraid? Why are people so afraid now to ask the questions at work? And that really drives me insane. Part of the inclusive culture means that you have to be curious, like you were before when you were a kid in the playground going, oh, Diwali, what does that mean? Oh, Ramadan, tell me more about that. What's that about? What's wrong with that now? You know, people are afraid of asking these questions. And I think part of my training with inclusive leadership is about that, is like, let's talk more about the basics. Let's go back a bit here. And it's almost straight, like for me, it's natural, right? I'm curious anyway. As a coach, you have to be. I have to ask the right questions. But at the same time, it's almost like people have forgotten how to communicate. It's just a basic skill.
But I think some of it is fear, isn't it? Because there has been so much about, you know, we talk about microaggressions in the workplace, and we talk about those things, and bias and all of those things. And I think that there are people, white males predominantly, who are not really sure whether what they say is right or whether they're saying the right thing. But again, when we look at those spaces and within those organizations, that's where the work that you do and the work that, because, you know, it's about the education. And actually, I don't mind being asked about, you know, it's when it's asked with a presumption. So say, for example, lunchtime. Oh, what's that you're eating? I bet it's spicy. You've asked what I've eaten, but at the same time, you've presumed that it's spicy because of what? So I think it's about the education about how you say things. And actually, it's really about treating people as you would like to be treated. Because even though I've given that example, if I was to reverse that with somebody eating, I don't know, I'll think of an English dish, toad in a hole, let's just say, for example. And I asked a question about that. And I said, oh, I bet it's not got much seasoning.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? It's the same presumption. It's the same. And it's about treating people how you would like to be treated.
So true. Yeah. If someone's eating a roast chicken dish, you go, oh, I bet that, you don't go, oh, I bet that's bland.
Yes. Exactly that. And I think it's those sorts of examples, because when I go and I do workshops on bias and microaggressions and things like that, and those are the sorts of things I will say, and then you'll see everybody kind of go, oh, I get it now. Because I think sometimes they think that we're just complaining about stuff when we talk about microaggressions, but when you are able to reverse it, it twigs that to them that actually that must be really hard for somebody to deal with on a day-to-day basis in the workplace. So can I ask, are there any general barriers that you face? I think you've kind of spoken about some of those already, but are there any general barriers that you think you faced other than what we've already spoken about?
Day to day, occasionally, say if I go to the supermarket, I notice it sometimes where if someone in front of me in the queue has just gone past and the cashier will go, oh, hello, how are you? Are you having a great day? Blah, 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 and have this full on conversation. Then there's me and I'm next. And they're like, hello. That's it.
I get that as well.
And I'm just like, okay, I laugh about it, right? Inside I'm giggling. And then instead what I do, and I've learned this over time, right? When I was younger, I was just like, why are they treating me differently? Now I've realized I just start the conversation myself. It's like, how are you? How's your day? And then they open up.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is it that we have to make the first step all the time? It's bloody exhausting.
But you know what it is? It's again about it's the human's natural instinct to engage with people that they believe are like them. So when they're talking to the person in front, in their mind, they've got maybe a similar life, or they understand what they're doing. You know, they're probably looking at you and saying, oh, maybe she just come from the mosque, or they don't know what religion you are, but they're looking at you and presuming. So does she even speak English? I'm not quite sure. So let me just say, you know, and I think that's and I'm not making excuses, I'm saying what I've observed or when I've spoken to people as to what could be the reason for those kind of things, because I get that as well all of the time. And it's only if one of my children are with me that they will then open up a little bit more, because nobody can resist kids. And my youngest daughter's got special needs, and I guess for some people, for them, she comes across as quite cute, or because she's 11 now, so she's a big girl, but she's more of like a 6-year-old, 5-year-old, that type of thing. And then people will engage with me. But other than that, I get the same thing. I get kind of, hi, would you like a bag?
Yeah, let's get straight to it.
Yeah. So coming to the end now, but what advice would you give others to help them within their career journey? So other people that look like you, or other people from diverse backgrounds.
I think firstly, believe in yourself, because that's it. Believe in yourself. You know, there's instances where I haven't done that, and when I was younger, before the coaching journey and everything, I felt that voice. I heard the voice that said, you're not good enough, and you're not like them. They're better than you. If you apply for this, or if you go for this, you're not going to get it, because it's always going to be that white person that gets that job. Don't do that to yourself, because there's people out there who actually will support you if you believe in yourself in the first place. And that's a lot of the work that I do in helping people. But that is exactly where you need to be, where you are your true, authentic, best self. You bring yourself as that to the table, and make sure that you never doubt yourself, your abilities, your skills. That is 100% of what I teach. And I think 80% of what you do is your mindset. 20% is skill. So don't even worry about how competent you are about something. Just go in there and learn on the job. That is so important as well, right? Men do this all the time. They'll apply for something when they meet 60% of the criteria on the job requirements. But women do not. They always go, oh no, I don't
do that. I don't have Microsoft Word 2022. Yeah.
And go, okay, that's not me. I can't do that. I can't figure out how to use an Excel sheet. I hate spreadsheets. Okay, great. But you can learn that skill if you believe in yourself and you want it, if you really want it.
Yeah. If there was one thing that an organization could do or have done to support people like you, what would it be?
I'm going to say something that basically means you need to support your women. You need to elevate, you need to retain women like us, because we are going to bring so much to the table. We will definitely make a difference to your bottom line. Obviously, that's all you care about.
Yeah.
Yeah, diversity of thought matters, and people like me matter, because we will make a difference for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pinky. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to share. But yeah, it's been really great having you. I've loved your energy, and also what you said as well, coming from an entrepreneurial background, and also having worked with organizations, even though that wasn't successful for you. But that whole thing about being your best self and believing in yourself and showing up as you, I think that's absolutely key. And I'd love to have you back on the podcast, to talk about the imposter syndrome work that you do, and a bit more of what you do with women as well. That would be really great. So if you'd be happy to come back, then I'm sure we'll have you back in a few months.
I'd love to. Thank you so much, Dawn. I've loved it. I've also loved your energy, and it's been great to talk about some things that we don't normally talk about.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I will see you soon, hopefully.
See you soon.